Did you know that the Department of Justice just subpoenaed trans kids' medical records, their social security numbers, their addresses, their parents' names, their doctor's notes? Literally, this is a quote from the subpoena, every record of every type about trans kids' medical care. Medical care that is recommended, by the way, by every major medical organization in this country. I swear this is true. Me and my kids were among the folks who were targets. And maybe you're about to post in the comments, what about medical privacy? What about HIPAA? And that's what makes it so scary. Let me explain. This whole thing hinges on the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. Now, the FTC is in charge of consumer protection, but they don't actually seem all that interested in consumer protection right now. Instead, they are locked in on keeping trans kids from visiting the doctor. It's actually states that normally regulate healthcare. And in a lot of states, like California, where I live, it is entirely legal to offer gender-affirming care to transgender kids. But the current administration hates that. And they haven't actually passed any federal laws, so they had to get creative. So first they tried to close the clinics by fiat. There was an executive order. They said they would not give a penny of federal money to any hospital that provided gender-affirming care. Now that means like Medicare and Medicaid. It's a lot of the revenue that hospitals get. Now that is not how government is supposed to work, but the threat actually led to some pretty big closures. My kids used to go to Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, and they laid off their entire gender care department. But that bit of extortion didn't work everywhere, so they had to come up with something else. So they took the people at the FTC, whose job normally is like to make sure that if Ford says a Ford Focus gets 18 miles per gallon in a television commercial, that's actually true. They took those people and they figured out how to use them to target trans kids. And what they came up with is the absolutely bananas assertion that providing gender-affirming care in and of itself is, and I swear to God this is true, medical fraud. Basically, they're saying that families like mine are getting tricked by our doctors, that it's fake medicine. Now, again, I hate to repeat this, but every single major medical association in the United States recommends this care for trans kids. It is the actual evidence-based medical scientific approach to care. It is what doctors think is best for transgender kids. But these people at the FTC, they're not doctors, they're lawyers. They don't know medical care, but they know loopholes, and they think they have found one. The loophole that they think they have found is this. If they accuse doctors of fraud, then technically they are then investigating a crime. And if they're investigating a crime, they can have the Department of Justice subpoena hospitals and clinics and doctors for whatever they want, including confidential medical records. The Washington Post the other day published one of these subpoenas, and they asked for everything. Again, notes from visits, consent forms, emails, text messages, kids' names, kids' addresses, social security numbers, parents' names. One doctor said they were driving home from work and they got a call from their hospital that they had to turn around and go back to bring in their work cell phone because everything on it had been subpoenaed. Why? Why are they doing this? Because they want to run every doctor who cares for trans kids out of business. They want to terrify every parent to the point where they don't bring their kids to the doctor. They want to scare every hospital into closing their clinics. Basically, it's another extortion tactic. Close up shop, or for the next however long, we will put you through hell. So far, the FTC and the DOJ have announced that they have subpoenaed more than 20 clinics. I know that the one my kids go to, Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, was on that list. And I wrote to the hospital, wrote to their chief counsel and asked, what are you doing to resist these subpoenas? They did not write back. My presumption is that they rolled over and gave up everything. In fact, I think that probably most or all of these hospitals and clinics gave up everything. Why? Because that's how extortion rackets work. The hospitals know if they're the one that's not rolling over, they're going to be the one that gets treated the worst. It's just basic, simple bullying. It's like gangster tactics. This is a really, really big deal. There are only a few thousand kids getting this care in the entire country. The estimate is something like 3,000. That means there are less than 10,000 parents like me who are around to protect them. Our kids are brave. We are behind them. So are their doctors and nurses. But we need you to ask yourself, how would I feel if the federal government called my kid's doctor and demanded their social security number? How would I feel if a government lawyer sent a letter to my kid's doctor's office and demanded every note that she had ever taken about my child? Ask yourself that. What if your name was on a list? What if your husband's name was on a list? Your child's name was on a list at the Department of Justice, at the FTC? How would you feel? If you feel even a little bit of the fear that is at the bottom of my gut right now, maybe take it and put it somewhere. Speak up for trans kids. Write to one of your legislators about this. Explain to your weird but well-meaning uncle that nobody is transing anyone. We just want to keep our kids safe and healthy, and this is the evidence-based way to do it. How about if there's a doctor in your life, you ask them if they would be willing to learn the care protocols? How about if you know a journalist who might write about this, you ask them that they put kids' actual human experiences first in their stories? Because right now it is crisis time. They are trying to terrify us, and it is working. It's time for us to fight back.